Now, welcome back to the countdown. It's been an exciting 2024, but also it's been a challenging one. Where power is concerned, Zesco has been on the lips, tongues, and keypads of everybody in the last 12 months. And they're joining us this evening as we count down with them, reflecting on the past 12 months with them. Zesco board chairperson joins us is Mr. Vickson Ncube.
Good evening, Mr. Ncube. Actually, the right way to pronounce it is Ncube.
Fantastic.
Did I get it right?
Perfect, yes. Ncube.
Ncube. Very few minutes before we cross over into 2025. How are you feeling?
Confident is the summary of everything. Feeling confident.
Well, as you're feeling confident, Chairman, many people don't feel confident in your leadership at Zesco. Obviously, the load shedding that they've been subjected to in 2024 has been one of the worst in living memory. What's happening?
Let me start by expressing my excitement at this panel. I look at Malama, Mulenga, Mwansa, and the whole crew here. I look at your ages and I realize that Zambia is in good hands. The young generation is ready to take up the mantle to take this country to the next level. That said, we come back to the issue of load shedding. Obviously, the major drivers of the load shedding have been matters that we can call outside our control. And I must, on this onset, state that it's a reflection of a collective failure of us as a country over the years since our independence. Because in leadership, there must be projection. We must understand that as the population grows, the infrastructure must also grow. But somehow, somewhere, as a country, we dropped the ball. We did not match the population growth with the infrastructure. Now, we had these nice power stations put up, all of them lying on water bends. Now, what does that mean? They are subject to the water movement. If there's a disruption in the climate, that affects the rainfall. That affects the water also, meaning the generation will be affected. But that's not just where it ends. Diversity should also have included geographical diversity, because Zambia is not uniform in terms of climate. One part of the country can have rain, the other may not have. So we should have, and that's why I'm calling it a collective failure over the years. We should have also diversified even the location of our power stations. Now, that is in the past. And I must state, as you listen to me, all of you, that this load shedding has a devastating effects on the economy. Now, I'll give you an example of my own daughter, and I'll use it because I know she won't sue me. She's an accountant by profession.
Yep.
But she does what you call, in your nice language, a side hustle. She bakes cakes, birthdays, weddings. So what she used to do is when she gets home, in the evening, she's got orders from workmates, former schoolmates, and friends all over. She would at night bake those cakes. Over the weekends, bake cakes. But because of the load shedding, that side hustle has died. Now, I fully appreciate the impact of load shedding on the economy, even at a personal level, because I've seen these things. I've seen small businesses close. I have seen a tailor relocate to Kasama, who was a tailor in Lusaka, because he could no longer do anything. He can't pay his rent. Now, I am fully alive to the impacts of this load shedding. Now, I am saying I am confident because I'm not a person who looks behind. The past is the past. What are we going to do about tomorrow to make this situation manageable? And I think that's where my confidence comes from.
Well, before you can tell us the plans that you have for tomorrow, Chairman Ncube, do you think perhaps the blame largely should be on you as Zesco? Because, yes, this country has had droughts before. This is not the first drought that this country is having. But obviously, others argue that this is the worst drought in living memory. And also others argue that this is the worst load shedding in living memory, because I can tell you tonight, Chairman Ncube, that in other parts of Lusaka, people have had no power for consistently 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I remember you had shared on your Facebook platform that if someone goes for power goes 24 hours without power, then they must contact Zesco. But we've got people that are having, not having power for 2 weeks.
That would be a very outlier case with a cause beyond the load shedding hours. 24 hours up to 2 weeks. Now let me put also the issues in context as why this load shedding is particularly bad and why we should accept that it's the worst, because we move from cause to effect. We don't move from effect to cause. If we have had the worst drought in living memory, it means we have had the worst crop failure in living memory. And I'm sure you're aware. I did plant some maize. I stopped going to the field. It just dried. I just stopped even going to the field because it was painful to go and see the crops drying. Now, if the crops dry, what would make the electricity generate? Boreholes, underground waters, they were drying. People were striking dry boreholes. So it means that the cause to the effect is outside our control. That's what I mean. But here is where the issue still starts to bite. Because our own generation is not enough. Our installed capacity cannot function to the level that it should. You have a car that can go up to gear 5. It jams and can only do gear 3. It means the performance of the car goes down. I'm using an everyday example. Now, what does that mean? It means that now, as a country, a good fraction of our power comes from our neighbors. There is nothing worse on earth than relying on a neighbor for your livelihood. Now, that is terrible because you find that there is a strike in Mozambique, they shut down. There is a failure of an equipment in Namibia, they shut down. We are immediately short of power that we can even share the little that we're supposed to share, because now our supply routes are also constrained. Now, until we get to the level where the solutions come from within, we shall continue experiencing what we're experiencing.
Right.
Yes.
Just as my colleagues coming,
Yeah.
I think the paradox comes to play in this form. Whilst this country is experiencing one of the worst load shedding, your utility company, Chairman Ncube, continues to export this electricity when we are failing as a country to provide for our people. Where is the sense in that?
Now, I don't even understand where the concept of exporting electricity. You know these lines, it's a traffic line. You cannot paralyze them to the point where no power goes directions. So we export because we also import. So that the highway is running both ways. I tell you, when we started getting power through Namibia, because all our lives when we had our power, we used to only take to Namibia. We never had power coming to Zambia. When we tried, the system could not respond. We had to spend days working with Namibia, trying to make the reverse mechanism to bring power back to Zambia. In fact, one of the worst tripping systems is the one in Namibia. Because we never developed it all these years, we thought we would only be net exporters. When we came to importing, now we know, as Zesco, that we must keep the lines going back and forth. We do not give power to our neighbors at our own expense. We do an averaging. What comes to us is more than what goes to them. But to keep the highway moving both ways, that is what happens. And I know when you are talking from political point of view, you do not look at the equation. You just look at a direct one thing that makes the narrative correct. But that's not true. And let me also just give one important point. When our power was still good, we were servicing debts. Zesco, on 31st December 2021, had a debt sitting at $3.5 billion. Okay? That's the debt. Of that debt, close to $2 billion was with the independent power producers. In other words, we have asked people to produce power for us. Itesteji, we have Mamba, we got Ndola Energy. We have asked, but we were not paying them when we use their power. So when the responsibility came, we said, no, look, we cannot be a pariah to our business partners. Let's find ways of paying these people, servicing these debts. So we committed part of the power to export, so that because the money that we get from exports is not what you can pay yourself Once if I said I charge you 14 cents per kilowatt hour for your electricity, you riot the following day. Yes.
Chairman, you've talked about quite a number of things, including, the low water levels, and that's not only, in the basins such as Kafue and Zambezi, including, the places like the boreholes for individuals. But
Yes.
we're going into the rainy season, so we'd like to find out what is the outlook for power generation in 2025.
We can only say that the meteorological department would have better knowledge. Us will only say that we must have a worst case scenario in our planning. We cannot start celebrating the rains before the rivers get the rains. You have seen that we only got reasonable rains, most of Zambia, yesterday. And we were approaching January of 2025, which we are approaching just now. Now, if that was the problem then, if that is what has happened, we cannot, as Zesco, start factoring in that it is raining now and so there will be proper power. We got to develop plans that anticipate the worst. If it turns out to be good 2025, we had prepared for the worst, the good has come, so what have we got to lose? But if we anticipate that things will be good, then they turn out bad.
Right. Well, Chairman, I want to talk about this as, it's been an interesting 2024, really. And when you talk about planning, we saw, schedules, where load shedding management is concerned. But it feels like, not that it feels like, every day we experience Zesco just not following a schedule that you yourselves have given us. Where is the challenge with following the schedule?
In fact, as I'm explaining, because most of our power now, due to our reduced internal generation, comes from exports. We were planning those schedules, factoring in the exports that will come. If there is any glitch on the road, and the past few weeks have been bad, very bad. At one time, because there was a problem in one of our neighboring countries, they restricted the amount of power that comes to Zambia. Even if we had imported, say, 350 megawatts, they say we can only allow 100. Now, if we had said we're going to give you 7 hours of power, and we have dropped from 350 to 100. No matter how intelligent we are, we cannot stretch 100 megawatts that has come from the export, from the anticipated 350, and make it 7 hours. It means then we have to reduce it. So the erratic schedules are because our import levels are no longer reliable. They fluctuate as our neighbors feel like giving us.
Right.
So as we cross into next year, we should not expect that there's going to be a schedule from Zesco that they're going to follow, but also I'd like to find out what measures you're putting in place, both in the short term and in the long term, to really address this issue of load shedding, Chairman.
Now you are coming to the right premises. What are we doing today, tomorrow, 3 days from now, and in the immediate short and medium term, before we go long term? One time I was at a meeting where the president says, if the skies don't give us the rain, they'll give us the sun. We are one country that mourns and never look at alternative on how we can solve the problem. Trust me, the sun can provide us answers to our power problems. Now, how does that work? We have found out the quickest win is if we put rooftop solar solutions. We want to transform our houses in Zambia into generators. At least we solve the household level. Your children must be able to do their homework. Your fridges must be able to work. Your freezers must be able to work. And the televisions must be able to work. And depending on the size of the system that is installed in your place, you can even have your washing machine working. So the answers are there in the sky through the sun. And as Zesco, we are taking a deliberate move to ensure that we are going to implement the solar systems in our homes. And we encourage households also to cook using gas. Why should your children starve when there's gas? So now, how do we do the solar system? we'll have a multi-pronged approach. If the government has already passed a law called net metering, where you are able to produce power and send to the grid. So what are we going to do? We'll have a combination of where households that can afford will do their own generations, will put up their own systems. Those that cannot afford, Zesco will negotiate with some of the financial institutions and will make sure that we do those. But of course, that is money that will be payable again. It will be like, instead of you paying us the usual bills that come from, it will come through you paying back on the installations. We are just determined that we cannot continue explaining to the nation why there is no power. Because the reason why you employ people in a position, the reason why you appoint a board chairman who appoints a CEO is not to explain, but to solve. The moment you are going to have people in positions of trust, explaining, but no solution, then there's a problem. Now, that is one aspect. I am going to spend a lot of time as chair of Zesco with the Engineering Institute of Zambia. And I know Wesley Kalova and I have become friends in our own way because of that. I want those engineers to come up with solutions that solve our problems. We cannot have spent all those school fees on these very intelligent gentlemen. Do you know that the engineers call themselves the cream de la cream?
So for now, we don't have solutions.
Huh?
So for now, we don't have solutions.
But I've told you the solutions. What do you call solution now? If I say we're going to have solar, it's a solution.
Well, I guess the
In
mantra...
my house, there's solar because my children cried. Dad, we need power. I could not go and say the government will. I just have to find the resources and put up solar.
So people really have to find their own resources.
But now I think you must not listening to me.
I'm listening.
I said there are multi-pronged approaches. You can put for yourself or we'll help you put.
So it goes back to the tagline. I believe it's Zesco, even when the sun is not there.
Now, not even when the sun is not there. Now, the more the sun is there.
But as we conclude, obviously, I think the biggest problem also is in how you communicate as Zesco. Is there any strategy really to improve the communication style from your end? Because even when people have no power for
5
2
days.
weeks or 5 days, there's no communication. We're left in the dark.
I really get into problems when people are saying they've had no power for 5 days. And
I've experienced it.
I think I have too. So
I have to.
I think
So,
communication
you know.
that
strategy
is what
very
I'm
important.
saying. Why would you experience no power for 5 days?
In fact, on top of that, I'm one of the people
Yes.
when I'm home, if there's no power, chairman, I would call the customer care line.
Mansa, the man at Zesco head office, you call a managing director, the board chairman of Zesco, is there for the people. No power, come on, call me. My number is easily accessible. No power, go to the MD's office. He cannot chase you. That's why he's there as a public servant, getting money appropriated from a company whose shareholder is you. You didn't know that you're the shareholder of Zesco. Your taxes built Zesco.
Chairman, your communication has been very poor.
That's
are
what
you
I'm
doing?
saying. The communication is poor in 2 ways. You don't escalate your problem. You keep calling the same person who is telling you the same story and you keep quiet. You shouldn't.
Right.
You know, there's a gentleman, I'll mention his name, he's called Carlos Maliti. He has become a personal friend. We've never met. Because every time there's no power in Kanyama, you found my phone on Facebook. He sent me an inbox like this, then I sent him my phone number, and we communicate.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to service the nation, not to hold positions.
But
We are
Chairman,
here to solve the
I
problem.
think one thing I'm just glad about is we didn't have a power cut during this interview, and I'm hoping we won't have it as we count down to the year 2025. Isn't that right,
No,
Andrew?
we'll see. We'll see if we can avoid it.
Chairman Ncube, thank you so much for making time to speak with us as we cross over into 2025, and we wish yourself and your family a prosperous 2025.